All right, let's dive straight into this explainer and master AQA topic 3.2.2. We are going to unpack exactly how businesses use inventory management to maintain a razor-sharp competitive edge. I am super excited to guide you through this masterclass. We're going to take a really structured, technical look at the strategies behind how the world's most competitive firms handle their physical stock. So if you're ready to focus, let's get right into it.
Here is our roadmap for the explainer. We'll quickly cover purpose and value, JIT versus JIC strategies, measuring efficiency, liquidity analysis, the Sheen model, and finally, strategic evaluation.
Section 1. Purpose and value.
So when we talk about inventory, we are literally just talking about the stock a business holds. And it's really crucial to remember this spans across three distinct stages: your raw materials, your work in progress, and your finished goods. But inventory management, well, that is the active, strategic part of the equation. It's efficiently overseeing the acquisition, storage, and distribution of all those goods. It really isn't just about storing dusty boxes in a massive warehouse. It's this vital, high-stakes balancing act of matching your supply perfectly with customer demand.
Moving to Section 2, JIT versus JIC strategies.
Now, this perfectly illustrates a classic strategic trade-off. It comes down to this: do you prioritize lean efficiency, or do you want safety and security? Just-in-time, or JIT, is a super lean production approach. It's kind of like a race against the clock, right? You're constantly minimizing your inventory to slash holding costs and avoid the risk of unsold waste, but, and this is a big but, it relies completely on your goods arriving exactly when you need them. On the flip side, just-in-case, or JIC, is basically your umbrella. It maintains higher buffer stocks as an insurance policy. It's a precaution to ensure you can meet sudden surges in demand or survive totally unexpected supply chain shocks.
Section 3. Task 1. Measuring efficiency.
Okay, I want you to literally pause the explainer right now, grab a calculator, a piece of paper, and think about how we calculate and interpret this vital efficiency metric. Imagine a firm, let's call them Farmore Cycles, and they're evaluating a massive 50,000-pound new inventory management system. How exactly do we measure if that system is actually making their physical operations more efficient? Hit pause, jot down the formula, and think about how you'd interpret the result.
All right, got your answer? Let's break it down. To see if Farmore's 50,000-pound investment is genuinely worth it, we calculate the inventory turnover ratio. That is your cost of sales divided by your average inventories held. If Farmore Cycles actually goes ahead and invests that capital, they are doing it with the strict, absolute expectation that this ratio is going to improve.
Following these steps reveals exactly how many times a company effectively replaces its inventory over a period, basically proving whether their operations are truly lean. It's a simple three-step process. Step 1, you identify your figures from the financials. Step 2, you divide cost of sales by your average inventory. And Step 3, which honestly is the most important part, you interpret the number. A higher turnover number is exactly what we're looking for here. It indicates the business is lean, they're selling and replacing stock rapidly, meaning they don't just have massive amounts of cash sitting utterly useless in a warehouse somewhere.
Section 4. Task 2. Liquidity analysis. Time to hit pause on the explainer again. This time, I really want you to challenge yourself to build a step-by-step chain of reasoning that connects physical stock to financial liquidity. Try to connect the physical pallet sitting in a warehouse directly to a company's ability to pay its short-term debts. Go ahead and pause now.
To build our chain here, we first have to remember the golden rule of the acid test ratio. It deliberately excludes inventory. Why? Because stock is just not easily converted into immediate cash. It is a highly stringent measure of liquidity. Think about it. You literally can't pay your suppliers with half-finished bicycles or a pile of unsold t-shirts. You need cold, hard cash. Therefore, we always subtract inventory from our current assets before we divide by current liabilities. It helps to think of JIC inventory like a giant financial anchor weighing down your business. Holding high levels of stock drains your working capital, and because that inventory doesn't count in the acid test, your immediate liquidity looks pretty weak on paper. But if management aggressively shifts to a just-in-time model, it's like that anchor is finally lifted. Your inventory drops, and suddenly all that capital is freed up as cash. And because cash absolutely is included in the acid test, your short-term financial security mathematically strengthens. It's a huge strategic shift.
On to Section 5, Tech Impact, the Sheen model. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Sheen operates a notoriously lean production model, often producing an initial batch of only 100 to 200 pieces for a brand new item. Just pause and think about how incredibly tiny that number is.
For a massive global fashion retailer selling in over 150 countries, launching a product with just 100 units is literally the ultimate mind-bending manifestation of just-in-time agility. So how do they do it? By utilizing advanced AI algorithms rather than human guesswork, they've almost completely eliminated the traditional need for massive just-in-case warehouses. They simply launch the small batch and wait for the data. If those initial 100 items sell out rapidly online, the algorithm instantly signals the supply chain to ramp up production on demand. This approach consistently limits their excess inventory to levels that traditional, old-school competitors can only dream of.
And what's really fascinating here is that this level of extreme tech-driven inventory control isn't just about saving costs anymore. It's actually aggressively positioned by the company as a method for reducing industry waste and carbon emissions. Guided by what they call a sustainability mindset, Shein uses these lean operations to ensure they only manufacture what people actually want to buy, which aims to minimize the massive waste traditionally associated with the fast fashion industry. It's a pretty compelling overlap of lean operations and environmental targets.
Finally, Section 6, Task 3, Strategic Evaluation.
All right, I'm going to ask you to pause the explainer one last time so we can form a justified judgment. Does the value of JIT actually change depending on the core business model? Is lean production absolutely essential for a fast fashion giant, but perhaps a little less important or even risky for a high-end niche manufacturer? Think about your arguments for both sides.
When we compare these two side by side, it is literally night and day. We see entirely different priorities. Shein operates in a fiercely price-sensitive market. Their unit costs absolutely must be minimized through continuous Kaizen improvements and zero waste, which makes JIT their absolute lifeblood. But look at a specialist niche producer. Their customers generally aren't as price-sensitive, and their profit margins are much higher. For them, the financial cost of holding inventory just in case is vastly outweighed by the reputational disaster of having to tell a wealthy client, "Sorry, we're currently out of stock."
So a really top-tier valuation recognizes that while lean production drives fast fashion dominance, it is ultimately a tightrope walk without a safety net. Having absolutely no spare items makes JIT highly dangerous if you don't have a flawless, tech-integrated supply chain. I mean, if a key supplier suffers a sudden breakdown, there's no buffer stock to save you. Customers will just instantly click away to a rival. Therefore, the strategic judgment is that JIT is a brilliant driver of competitiveness, for sure, but its true value is entirely dependent on the flawless reliability of your supplier network.
I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to chew on as you review your notes today. As AI and technology completely perfect our supply chains, is the safety net of buffer stock destined to disappear entirely? If an algorithm can guarantee exactly what consumers will buy tomorrow, why would any business ever spend money to hold inventory just in case today? Think on that as you consolidate your learning. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep up that fantastic focused momentum.